Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. It's a promise. Each morning, when I think about that, I know that God has promised that everything that we do is in His control.
Welcome to the Leaves annual meeting. I'm Lisa Wiley and I'm a member of the board of the Leaves. What you're about to see is amazing testimonies from our staff here, the Christian Science staff at the Leaves. And that's what drew me to want to serve on the board, was all the great healing work that's happening here. Our theme this year is Arise and Shine, and I know you'll feel that as you watch the following.
Rise and shine to me means healing demonstrations from our own lives. So I'll share one of mine recent healings. So last week I woke up feeling groggy and battling flu symptoms. And I didn't think much of it. But by the time I got to work and sat down at my desk, I was exhibiting all the symptoms. So I silently turned to God in prayer and declared that God is healthy, therefore I am healthy. God is all in all, and there is nothing outside of His wonderful, good creation, and that includes me as His reflection. So there actually happened to be a piece of paper on my desk that had this quote from Mary Baker Eddy, Miscellany, and I'll read it to you. It's page 116 from Miscellany. At a time of contagious disease, Christian scientists endeavored to rise in consciousness to the true sense of the omnipotence of life, truth, love. And this great fact in Christian science realized will stop a contagion. First of all, I was like, wow, God really meets us where we need. And secondly, I love working in an environment where spiritual truths are relied upon and discussed openly. Because this was just a training exercise kind of worksheet, and there it was, meeting my need. So I sat with this truth of the omnipotence of life, truth, and love. And I declared that I am conscious of this. I understand this, and I mentally demanded of myself that I feel the effects of this healing truth. And sure enough, the symptoms cleared and I was healed. God answered my prayer immediately, and I had a productive day of work. I have been in perfect health ever since, and I am just so grateful for this awesome demonstrations.
I went in to help another nurse with someone, and when we were helping with a lift, it was unexpectedly heavier than I thought it was going to be. And after, I noticed that I had a strain in my neck. That week's lesson was addressing animal magnetism, and it had a lot of the imagery of like standing watch on the watchtower. And really, that week I was thinking a lot about watching and thinking about, what am I letting in my thought? And of course, keeping out any wrong suggestions. So right there, that came to me immediately. And so I, realized, okay, I saw what the problem was, and I realized that truth immediately. And then the next step was so strong for me was that nothing can prevent Christian Science nursing from happening, that it's established, it's in the manual, that the authority comes from that, and that nothing can prevent that. So it wasn't even about me anymore. It was more about, hey, nothing can stop Christian Science nursing. And the very next day when I got up to come to work, I was completely free of any pain.
When I was in my country, my husband wanted to go somewhere in the other city to talk about Christian Science, because that part of people, they didn't know that how Christian Science is working. So he went there, he tried to go there, and before you go there, you have to fix an old document that can let you go to that city. Now he told me that he wants to go. I told him that we need to pray, because it's not easy to bring something different in that city. When he went to fix the document, they keep telling him to find more and more documents. I told him, no, now we have to pray. We have to pray, because divine love, who created all universe and all places, created them for every child, every children to go there. So you, as the divine likeness of God, you will go and they're not going to ask you about the document. You will just go and explain to people how Christian Science is working. We start praying. That day, when he arrived where they can check the document, they didn't ask him the document. They let him go there. He was like, for us, it was a miracle. And as children of God, if we think that everything God made is for his likeness and for his image, everything will be done and good.
I was pet sitting for a friend, and while I was putting their dog in the crate so that I could leave, it bit my hand, and I was able to, continue to put it in the crate and washed my hand off and calmed down a little bit and called a practitioner. The thing that first came to me was that I knew the dog was good, and I knew that I didn't need to agree to have anything be painful or to stop me from whatever I needed to do. And when I called the practitioner, she suggested to work with the idea of everything working in harmony together, all God's creatures working in harmony. And so I said, thank you, and I went and got something to bandage my hand up, and I realized I already knew that the dog, that we could work in harmony, but I was really grumpy that I was thinking that so many of my friends seemed to not socialize their dogs very well, and I was just grumpy about this world thing that seems to happen. And so I called the practitioner back, and I was like, I am not worried about my hand. I know my hand is fine, but I am worried about these other things. And I need some good ways to redirect my thought about that. And so she suggested to work with the idea, to work with the question, what is mind? And to work with some of the ideas in there. And they're being one mind that works in harmony. It made me think to notice and to ask myself, well, okay, if there's no accidents, if mind is just working together and all harmonious, what can I notice about this situation that is harmonious, that is good? And I've been wanting to learn how to work with animals that maybe aren't as calm, and I've been wanting to have more bandaging practice. And so those two things happened, and I knew that neither one of that good didn't need to cause any harm or pain. And I knew I didn't need to accept that. I ended up being so grateful for that experience. I was never stopped from doing anything that I needed to do. I was able to continue to be active, and anytime the thought came that, oh, well, you shouldn't put strain or stress on this hand, I could just put that idea down and continue a movement in the normal way. And I was able to have many good conversations with people, with one of my instructors, my Christian Science nursing instructors, about some good ideas that I wouldn't have been able to have had otherwise. And one of the things I was worried about is that the dog might be put down. I was able to have that fear put aside, that the dog could continue to be loved. So I was just so grateful for all of those things.
This year, I had a great demonstration while attending my first year at university. So it was kind of my first year away from home and first year away from all of kind of my Christian Science supportive groups. And so while I was at university, it was really hard, and I found it very difficult because I was in a whole other state, didn't know anyone, and I had this roommate that I chose randomly, and so I was super nervous. And I remember thinking, why am I going to Kansas State University? This is ridiculous. I'm not near anyone close by, and this is just not meant for me. And reflecting on the year and reflecting back on this, I can see that it's a demonstration just because everywhere I went, it was just so full of love, and it was so well thought out and planned. I could tell it wasn't my will, but thy will through God. And I ended up becoming best friends with my roommate. And even though we were different religions, we could have these really deep religious conversations that would last for like 2 to 3 hours every time we would have one. And it was so amazing just because I got to see this demonstration throughout so many different points of the whole year. There were 2 main verses that I thought of during this whole year from Science and Health, Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. The first one, I'm studying landscape architecture at university, so it was pretty obvious to think that this verse from page 68, it says, "Sometime we shall learn how Spirit, the great architect, created men and women in science." And so that was really amazing because obviously as I'm working and doing my schoolwork, I just have to think, it's not my work, it's not my thinking. My professors can't reflect badly on this because this is only the one mind. We're all expressing God's mind. And so that was really amazing to have. And then I also participated in Discovery Bound's Ignite program, which is for young adults. And during this program, this year's spring theme was from page 233. It says, "This is an element of progress, and progress is the law of God, whose law demands of us only what we can certainly fulfill." So I loved that, and I worked with that a lot.
I have had several opportunities to rise high in demonstrating the power of prayer in overcoming and healing every challenge that has been presented to me this year and over the years as well. One of the opportunities that came to me was in a form of a physical challenge that happened recently. I woke up one morning and I was in so much pain that I considered calling in right away to take a day off so as to work metaphysically on overcoming the seeming challenge. I felt like there was a heavy load at my back with a sharp pain. Just as I was contemplating on the next steps to take, a thought came to me in the form of a question to myself. Are you going to accept this lie? I found myself saying aloud, no, I'm not going to accept this. I am needed at work, and that's what I was going to do. I recalled a statement from our textbooks that says, we are all sculptors working at various forms, molding and chiseling thought. What is the model before mortal mind? Is it imperfection, joy, sorrow, sin, suffering? Have you accepted the mortal model? Are you reproducing it? This awakened me from the lie that was trying to impede the good that I had planned to do that day. of being a witness to the primitive Christian Science healing where I work as a Christian Science nurse. I knew, as I've always known, that God was in control and that nothing could hinder my daily duty to God and to my fellow men. I prayed silently, affirming my oneness with my Father, Mother, God, giving thanks to all the goodness already received, and rejoicing in knowing that God is my life and my health. It wasn't long after praying that I felt a sudden relief from the seeming pain and was able to put myself together and went to work, rejoicing for the quick and instant healing. Mrs. Eddy wrote in the first line of preface from our textbook, "To those leaning on the sustaining infinite, today is big with blessings." Indeed, when we lean on the sustaining infinite, we rise higher in our demonstration of Christian Science practice. And the more we study and put into practice what we have learned, the more we keep on rising higher in our spiritual understanding.
I will express my gratitude for the healing I got recently. I wake up one morning, suddenly, I feel a pain on my right foot. I immediately turned to God in prayer. I did affirm that since I'm spiritual, has the image of spiritual, which is God, the source of my being, I could never be separate from my source. I also thought of myself as the idea within divine mind, the source of all movement. I could not experience the lack of movement because in the activity of divine mind that I express, there's no pain. I keep on rejecting any suggestion coming on my way to tell me that I was a physical being. Then I wake up, took a bath, and then left for work. Anytime the pain coming on the surface, I hid fast on the truth to know who I'm really. Later on, the pain was vanished and I was free. Thank you, Miss Eddy, for your revelation.
This past spring, my husband and I went on a trip with 4 other couples. We go yearly and we really look forward to lots of activity, pickleballing, walking on the beach, and kayaking. So the first day, we started off our very active trip with pickleballing. And almost the very first shot I had to lean forwards, and from the base of my back to the bottom of my heel just was jarred to the point where I couldn't get up. And so everybody noticed. My husband had to help me up and pick me up and walk me back to a seat. The non-Christian scientists in the group were quite concerned, and lots of talking ensued. So I was just very quiet and let them go back to playing pickleball, but just started thinking about who I was, who I never stopped being, that very spiritual reflection of God. And, just those thoughts really helped curb the pain and the fear. But as I was thinking about it, there was also a tandem issue of me having trouble with a relationship and that I hadn't really worked on. Quite literally, it was a pain in my rear. So that little God thought really was the impetus for me to really dig deep. And what came to me immediately was something I had used as a kid, which was God was with the test giver as well as the test taker. So God was with everybody. And just because I wasn't getting along with them, God wasn't with me and not with them. But it was so lovely. And during this time, I had I was using my Christian Science practitioner. And so that light bulb combined with something that he said, which I'd really like to read. All of us together as God's family. Oneness with matter would mean oneness with conflict, limitation, agitation, lack, sin, illness, and so on. Oneness with divine love, however, is oneness with everything good. So really, truly, that's what it took. And it was almost instantaneous. So that next morning, we were doing a half-a-day kayaking, a 4-hour pickleballing, and a walk on the beach, and I was completely free. It was just such a lovely demonstration of that change of thought. It wasn't the actual healing of my pain in the rear. It was that change of thought that resulted in immediate healing, and I am so grateful.
Hymn 589 says, "Rise and shine, your light has come. God, the everlasting Son, Christ has given us this light, radiate God's glory." 2024 certainly has presented opportunities to be able to live the theme, Rise and Shine, both personally and as a facility. This year, the Leaves took a group of Christian Science nurses and staff to Boston for professional development and team building exercises. After a busy weekend of visiting the Mother Church and some of Mary Baker Eddy's homes, on our flight home, the flight attendants let us know that we should be expecting and be prepared for some turbulence on the flight. And so no sooner, they said that, did I myself immediately start addressing it metaphysically. About midway through the flight, we did begin to experience some turbulence. And again, I turned to the books, and the idea of rising and shining through these clouds of presupposed danger came into my mind. God, the everlasting Son, was shining bright for the other Christian scientists on board that were on the trip with us. I knew we were clad in the panoply of love and peace, and nothing could change that. No sooner than I got to work metaphysically did the roughness subside. The flight continued on, and a while later, there was an announcement that we were being diverted from going to Dallas to Oklahoma City. And so we landed in Oklahoma City. We were grounded for about an hour. And then again, they made the announcement that they had gotten confirmation that it was clear for us to fly home, that the storms over Dallas had passed, and that we could expect a safe and smooth flight. Rising and shining on that flight was not limited to just the Christian scientists, but to everyone throughout the whole plane who was praying in their own way. We are constantly protected and cared for, even when it seems as inconvenience as getting diverted to another city. All of our needs are always met, even before we know what they are. How grateful I am for that guiding constant light around every corner.
since the theme is Rise and Shine, I would like to talk about an experience I had this year. We were in the tour at the Mother Church with a group from the Leaves. I think the day we arrived, we went to visit one of Mrs. Eddy's house in Lynn. And as the staff was talking to us, she introduced us to the third version of Science and Health. When I came back to Dallas, I looked around and I found an edition at the Leaves to really understand what happened to Mrs. Eddy when she had that fall. And then what happened in details about the whole experience for her to witness that healing she had. One night, I was working 3 to 11 shift. And at 11, I left work and I went to my apartment. I went to sleep, and then in the middle of the night, around 3 a.m., I woke up and my whole body was shaking, and I did not understand what was the problem. So I was shaking all over, and I said, okay. I started saying some truth, and I hesitated. I said, should I wake my wife or not? Because she had to go to work that morning. I said, maybe I will disturb her. And this continued, so I woke her up, and she started saying the truth. And I called the Christian Science practitioner. I also started reading to really destroy the fear that was presented to me. And I read from the Bible, like Psalm 91, Psalm 23, and Joshua, the whole chapter, Joshua 1, which reassured me. And so the fear dissolved. And I was really reassured at that time. And I went to bed, and I woke up in the morning. I was completely healed. And that's really, for me, those are the moments that I really rose from all these experiences. And I'm so grateful for the work of the Christian Science practitioners who always support our ministry, and our field here in Dallas and all over the world that support our ministry. And I'm so grateful for all the work is being done by the Christian scientists all around the world. I'm so grateful.
I have experienced a variety of healings over the past year. Kind of everything from flu-like symptoms to calf muscle strain. And through those, it's really been this deep and abiding commitment and love of Christian Science to see those healings happen. So I wanted to share 2 of them with you. It seemed to be that I had symptoms of a cracked rib, and not many people knew about it at the time. And it was painful and uncomfortable to breathe and move. And having had family members who dealt with cracked rib before, it's usually at least 6 weeks to heal. And I was very grateful that through prayers and Christian Science, that I had a complete healing and complete freedom from the pain. I was able to move freely in just 2 weeks. So really grateful for that healing. Another healing that I experienced this year was while I was traveling for work. And I was traveling to really get a good sense of the Christian Science nursing community, feel togetherness, and be able to build relationships and connections with others. And as I got on the plane before flying, I kind of went one way and my knee went the other way, and it was very painful. And I pretty much prayed through the entire flight, just knowing that I was God's child, and really that I couldn't be hurt or harmed in any way, and I was always under His eternal and divine protection. And as I was praying more and more, it was really a lovely sense, because here I was going about doing God's good work to feel a sense of togetherness. And it was this sharp realization to know there was no separation between anybody in God's kingdom, that we all had one creator and it was just him, and being able to see that in a variety of forms was a lovely thing and a lovely healing that occurred because of that spiritual understanding. I was able to go about and do everything that I had planned to do on that trip with limited freedom in the beginning and more as I continued on. But I don't think anybody even knew, nobody recognized it. And it was a lovely healing, and I was really, really grateful for that demonstration.
Okay, so our theme for this year is to rise and shine. And I really wanted to know how I could use that for my own Christian Science nursing practice. So I looked up a couple of Bibles to see what they all said, and 3 of them said different things, but they all meant the same thing. One of them that stood out to me was telling me that everything that the Bible tells us, that we read in the Bible, are promises of God. It's a promise. So if it says, "Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you." So I tried to look to see how I could use that for myself and for my practice, Christian Science nursing practice. So each morning when I think about that, I know that God has promised that everything that we do is in His control. It has nothing to do with us. So when I come to work and there's a schedule, hardship of any kind, if we're missing some nurses or nurses are away and we are stretched, I've learned to rise up and shine and know that I am not in control, that God is in control. That was the promise that God gave us when this particular passage speaks to me that way. So I learn not to take on false responsibility, because when I think I'm the one doing the scheduling and it's not coming together, and it means I'm saying that God did not do everything good. And it tells us that, and God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good. So each day when I get out of bed, that's what one of the Bible books said about Isaiah 61, that get out of bed and let the sun shine on your face. So I get out of bed and I know that this day is the promised day, and that I don't have to worry about anything, that God has everything under control. And that has really helped me to be more at peace, to be more enthusiastic, to know that no matter what the day holds, everything will come together, and that God is truly in complete control.
I want to share with you a healing that I experienced not too long ago. Recently, like in the October 2024 journal, Ron Mangelsdorf's lead article talks about, and the title is "The Feeling is the Healing." And when I read it, I realized I had a healing. I was out in the world and I saw someone having some difficulty involving some other people around them. And I asked God, what can I do to pray about this? And just looked away, some trees and things. And the thought came to me, why, they're in my hand. And I realized it's a perfect fit. Us being in God's hand is a perfect fit. And I felt it. It wasn't just those words. I felt that was God holding them and me and everybody on the planet in His hand. And I just stayed with that for a little while, not long, but it just seemed not enough. That having a wonderful inspiration was great, but I wanted to prove it in a way I didn't really have time for all these words. It wasn't enough. And so I just hung in there with that for a little bit. And suddenly the thought came to me, step back and watch the omnis do their work. And so I physically stepped back and just really watched and listened. And the thought came to me, why, God is omnipotent and has the power to do whatever has to be done here. And God is also omnipresent and has been here before, during, and after this moment, because it's all at one time in one place. And when I got to God is omniscient, I realized everybody involved, the lookers on, the people involved, whatever, it's enough. Everybody knows exactly what to think about and has the skill set to do whatever needs to be done. And within about less than a minute, the whole thing had resolved itself. Everybody was at peace. And it was truly as though nothing had happened. And even this morning, when I was reading my lesson on unreality, I was just taken with the fact that Jesus lived in only reality and consciousness, his Christ consciousness. And that I felt so close to that in thinking about the raising of Lazarus, that Lazarus had never died. His family wasn't upset. Nobody wanted to kill him. Nobody was worried about him. He was at one with his maker, and it's a perfect fit. You, me, everybody. This is a wonderful thing to ponder, and I'm very grateful for being a student of Christian Science and having the privilege to work right here at the Leaves and have to and get to prove it every day of my life.
I'm very grateful to share a healing that I got recently. I was working one day, and in the midst of my work, I felt my neck got stuck. And at that time, I recall of the time a friend called me for the same issue to pray for him. And then I remember what we shared together. That was two characteristics of God and Spirit: flexibility and strength. I affirm, as the reflection of Spirit, I am flexible as water and hard as the rock. This is to mean water and rock can never get stuck. Neither can I, because I was the same thing as Spirit in nature. The claim did not stop at the same time. Whenever it surfaces, I would impart the same truth. I came back on the same basis until I forgot about the issue and continued with my work. By the time I thought of that, it's already gone and I'd already been free. So I just thank God for the opportunity to apply the truth.
There was a situation where I helped someone out, or I thought I helped them out. And when they found out what I had done to help them out, they weren't so enamored. They weren't grateful as I thought they would be. And so when I tried to explain, why I helped out, and they also explained their side of it, initially, I went away feeling a bit saddened by the whole situation, trying to do good random acts of kindness, and then it turns out not to be an act of kindness or received that way. And, mortal mind told me, well, I'm never going to help anyone else again. I'm just going to mind my own business and let everybody else be. But of course, that's not how we live in brotherly love. I mean, this year's theme is rise and shine, and you cannot shine on your own most of the time. Things need to happen for it to benefit others. So as I thought through it, the thought that came to me was, yes, listen to God's direction and do what is your highest sense of right. And even if it's not received that way, that it's okay. I mean, once I know I was doing it from a pure heart, I shouldn't even be expecting someone to be grateful and thankful. So I figured that maybe that was my mistake of thinking, oh, the other person was going to be so happy or so grateful, but just doing it knowing that, we can help each other whenever and not expect anything in return. But God blesses us for doing good anyway, so look for the good from God. And interestingly enough, as I thought through it, I realized that someone else was grateful for something that I did for them, and I wasn't looking at that, looking at what I thought should happen and didn't happen, but there was good happening elsewhere. So yeah, that was a lesson I learned recently, and I'm very grateful for it. And since then, I've been, using that thought about the fact that don't look for gratitude from specific people necessarily, but know that it's happening. God's goodness is happening everywhere. And every little thing we do from a pure heart is blessed, even if we don't see it.
One day, several weeks ago, I had an eye that was really itchy. And the next morning when I woke up, it was swollen and painful, and there was some discharge. It seemed like kind of an ugly picture. And so because I was uncomfortable, I thought I would stay at home that day and pray for myself. And I just didn't want to alarm anybody else. So when I was kind of complaining to my husband about how much it hurt, he looked at me and he said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, my eye." And he didn't see it. He didn't see it. And that it made me really stop and think, what was he seeing that I wasn't seeing? And I realized that he was seeing the real me. He was seeing the woman that God created, and not somebody with a challenge. So that really gave me a lot to think about. So I started praying and working for myself, and the thought came to me, a quote from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. "A spiritual idea has not a single element of error, and this truth removes properly whatever is offensive." So I really worked with that and took it apart, thinking about, yes, I am spiritual. God created me in his image and likeness, and therefore there couldn't be an element of error involved. And the truth of knowing that would remove whatever the problem seemed to be. And so I kept working with that and with some ideas from the lesson that week. And after a couple of days, my eyes were perfectly fine, which in reality, they were all along. But there was no more problem, and there hasn't been a recurrence. And I'm just really grateful to be a student of Christian Science.
Yay, that is good. Rise and shine.
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 Arise and shine.
So rise and shine.
Rise and shine.
Rise and shine.
Rise and shine.